You've been working so hard with one of your tenants. You held off on evicting. You've waited for that tax refund check that never came. You waited for that job that the tenant was supposed to get. You've delayed and delayed and delayed. You even talked to the owner about it, and the owner agreed to delaying. But now it's all backfiring on you. Now the tenant owes 3 months' rent. Could you be held liable for a tenant not paying the rent and you holding off on an eviction action? My name is Harry Heist, and I'm the founding partner of Heist, Weiss & Wolk, the property manager's partner. There's no specific time that you must file an eviction action. You could wait as long as you want. There's nothing in the law that states that you must file an eviction after the 3-day notice expired. You are allowed by law to work with a tenant as long as you want. And sometimes you do. You hold off on certain things. You wait for that tax refund check, or you wait for the first check that the tenant will get from their new job. This is common. Property managers work with tenants all the time. But here's the problem. If you wait too long, the time slips by quickly, and now, faced with filing an eviction, you might have 2 or even 3 months' rent that's owed. Now, this is perfectly okay as long as it was okay with the owner of the property. The problem, though, is that the owner of the property maybe didn't know that you were trying to work with that tenant that you worked with in the past and came through every single time. Now, it doesn't look good. You tried to work with the tenant, you waited for that payment, you took a check, that check bounced, and now you're deep in. Could the owner hold you liable? Absolutely. An owner is expecting that you are going to manage the property professionally. You're going to give the 3-day notice at the time period that's allowed by law, the date that's allowed by law. You're going to proceed with an eviction action, or you're going to notify the owner of an eviction action or ask the owner for permission to file the eviction at a certain time each month. But you're not doing that. You're not following a plan. You're not following a procedure. You're working with the person. You're waiting too long to take action. Now, if you're going to do this, if you're going to hold off on filing an eviction action, it's perfectly okay as long as it is okay with the owner of the property. So what we recommend that you do is you have a particular date of the month. This is your drop dead date for evictions. On the 15th of the month or the 20th of the month, this is your date where you will either file an eviction or you will notify the owner that you have not received the rent, and you're going to ask the owner for permission to file an eviction action on their behalf. And we recommend that you do get permission from the owner. It's not a good idea to hire an attorney without the owner's knowledge. The case could get out of control, and you don't want the owner coming back on you and angry at you for even hiring that attorney. You should communicate with your owner about the fact that you're going to file an eviction, who you're going to hire, before you actually do it. But now, you might call up the owner and tell the owner that it's time, that you haven't received the rent money, but at the same time, you may notify the owner that the tenant has asked you for an extension. The tenant is waiting on that refund check from the IRS. The tenant is waiting for that help from a parent or from an employer. So there might be a valid reason why you might want to wait. But it's important to have the owner make that decision. If you're going to hold off on an eviction, have the owner tell you to hold off. After you've explained the things to the owner, the delay, the promises, have the owner make that decision. Don't make that decision on your own. And what we recommend is that you use a form called an eviction hold-off letter. Now, in a perfect world, we would have all these forms and notices that I provide to you. You would have them used by the owner, by the tenant. The owner would actually sign the eviction hold-off notice. Well, we know that that's not always the case. But at the bare minimum, we recommend that you email the owner and memorialize the phone call that you had with the owner. If the phone call or you have the email talks about holding off on an eviction till a certain set date, you want to have that in writing. Because what could happen is this. The owner tells you to hold off for 10 days. You wait for those 10 days. Then you notify the owner, but the owner's out of town. For some reason, you can't get in touch with the owner. So now you don't know what to do. Should you file an eviction? Should you wait? Should you delay any further? I've seen owners come back after the property managers and try to state that the property manager did not file an eviction when they should have. I've had attorneys who've made serious demands against property managers claiming that the property manager was negligent because they didn't file the eviction soon enough. The property manager defended by saying, but I waited because the owner told me to wait. But we had nothing in writing. We had no emails, no paper trail to show that the owner said to hold off on the eviction. From this point on, make it your action item. Have your date for eviction. Have your date to notify the owner. Have your date to communicate with the owner. And if there's any extensions, you want the owner to agree to those extensions. Don't do it on your own. Don't get in trouble by holding off, listening to the promises, and then potentially being deep in and having a lot of money owed. Remember, the eviction is just the beginning of the process. So not only have you held off on accepting the rent, but now you have the eviction action to deal with. And hopefully it will be an uncontested eviction action, but it could be a contested eviction that drags on longer than you expected. Limit your liability. Have the owner make the decision for any delays, any hold-offs on the eviction. If you have any questions regarding this topic or any other topics that we discuss, please feel free to email us at info@evict.com.